Imagine this. Elon Musk, trapped alone inside the ancient Colosseum. No signal, no exit, no one coming to help. A deadly trap hidden beneath the ruins. And a race against time to stop a secret that could control the entire world. This isn't just a story. It's a cinematic adventure based on a thrilling fictional scenario, starring Elon Musk, locked in a battle of wits and survival. Want to know what happens next? Stay with us and experience the full story unfold. The sun was sinking behind the ancient stone arches of the Colosseum when Elon Musk realized something was very, very wrong. He pulled on the heavy iron door behind him. It didn't budge. At first he laughed, thinking it had jammed the way old doors sometimes do, especially in places touched by 2,000 years of dust and history. But then came the second tug. Harder, and the door stayed stubbornly closed, a giant, unfeeling slab of history trapping him inside. There was no guard in sight, no echoing footsteps from tourists, no distant murmurs of Rome's evening life leaking through the stone cracks. It was as if the Colosseum had swallowed him whole. He pulled out his phone, instinctively opening his private security app, the one no one but he and 2 trusted engineers even knew existed. But the thick walls of the Colosseum crushed all signals into nothingness. No Wi-Fi, no data, no calls out. He was completely alone. He took a breath, his mind flipping through 1,000 possible explanations. A prank, a security lapse, a simple mistake. But one cold, persistent thought clawed its way through the noise. This wasn't an accident. Outside, the sky dimmed from gold to deep indigo, and the shadows inside the Colosseum grew taller, swallowing the ancient arena's battered stones in heavy darkness. Somewhere above him, he thought he heard the soft, deliberate clang of another gate slamming shut, and it hit him with absolute clarity. Someone had locked him inside on purpose, but who? And why? A bead of sweat slid down his temple, and for the first time in a long time, Elon Musk, the man who dreamed of conquering Mars, realized he might not even escape Earth's oldest battlefield. He wasn't just trapped. He was being watched. He tilted his head, listening, every muscle in his body taut. There, a whisper of movement. Just a scrape of a shoe against ancient stone. But it was real. Someone else was here, not a ghost of Rome's brutal past. A flesh-and-blood stranger, or worse, an enemy. He felt the cold, familiar rush of adrenaline sharpen his senses as he stepped deeper into the labyrinth of crumbling tunnels beneath the Colosseum floor, guided only by the dim beam of his phone's flashlight. If this was a game, someone had set the rules, and Elon Musk had just been forced to play. But what they didn't know, what they had never considered, was that Elon Musk had spent his entire life preparing to beat impossible odds. He squared his shoulders, took a slow breath, and stepped into the black maw of the ancient tunnels. Because if someone wanted him trapped here, Elon was going to find out who, and he was going to win. The tunnels were colder than Elon expected. Damp, ancient and pulsing with a strange, heavy silence that pressed against his ears. Each step he took echoed back at him, the sound swallowed and twisted by the maze of stone. His phone's flashlight cast long, jerky shadows against the cracked walls, revealing faded carvings, broken iron chains, and forgotten doors, eaten away by centuries of neglect. Somewhere ahead, the scrape of movement sounded again. Closer this time. He wasn't imagining it. Someone was leading him deeper into the belly of the Colosseum. He fought the rising instinct to call out, to demand answers, to break the eerie stillness with his voice. No, that's what they wanted. Whoever had set this up wasn't looking for a conversation. They wanted him afraid, confused, alone. Elon gritted his teeth and tightened his grip on his phone. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction. Instead, he moved slower, quieter, letting the labyrinth reveal itself on its own terms. The path twisted sharply left, and then he saw it, a faint, unnatural glow ahead. Faint blue light, pulsing like a heartbeat, leaking from the cracks of a heavy door. The door looked older than the others, reinforced with fresh metal bands, like someone had recently strengthened it. But why? He crept closer, pressing his ear against the cool surface. Inside, he could hear faint mechanical hums. Low, rhythmic, artificial, a sound so out of place in this ancient ruin that it raised the hairs on the back of his neck. And then he saw it, carved into the door itself, almost hidden by centuries of scratches and grime, was a name. Argos. Elon's stomach dropped. He knew that name. Argos was the code name of a secret tech project, one he had bid on and lost 2 years ago. A project rumored to have the power to disrupt global communications forever. And the man who had beaten him to it? A bitter, ruthless competitor. A name the world celebrated. But Elon knew better. Lucien Vale. A tech mogul, draped in charisma and dripping in lies. Someone who hated Elon with a quiet, obsessive intensity. Suddenly the pieces clicked. Lucien hadn't just locked Elon inside the Colosseum for a twisted prank. He was using the world's most famous monument as the ultimate cover, hiding the final phase of the Argos project right beneath the noses of millions of tourists. And now Elon wasn't just trapped. He was standing at the edge of a secret that could rewrite the rules of power across the globe. But first, he had to find a way in, and he had to do it before whoever was watching him made their next move. Behind him, somewhere in the tunnels, a soft metallic clang echoed, sharp and deliberate. A warning, or a countdown. Elon's heart slammed against his ribs. There was no turning back now. He wiped the sweat from his palms onto his jeans, tightened his jaw, and reached for the door's ancient handle. Because if Lucien Vale thought a locked door and a dark tunnel could stop Elon Musk, he was about to be reminded, very painfully, who he was dealing with. Elon tightened his grip on the heavy iron handle. It was ice cold, rough with rust and time. He yanked it once, nothing. He pushed. The door groaned but didn't give. Then he noticed it. A tiny indentation above the handle, no bigger than a coin, almost invisible in the grime. A scanner. Modern tech, hidden in ancient stone. Lucien's signature move, blending innovation with arrogance, hiding the future inside the past. Elon's mind raced. He had no keycard, no tools, just his instincts, and whoever was watching him, setting the rules of this game, was counting on him failing. He narrowed his eyes and slid his thumb over the scanner. The machine chirped once. Then the wall to his right hissed open, revealing a hidden slit barely wide enough to squeeze through. A path Lucien hadn't meant to reveal, triggered by Elon's fingerprint. Or had he meant for it to happen all along? Elon had no time to second-guess. Without hesitating, he slipped inside the slit and instantly realized his mistake. The walls around him shifted. The ancient stones groaned as a hidden mechanism came alive. The corridor began to close in, shrinking by inches every second, threatening to crush him between two slabs of unforgiving Roman stone. A trap designed not just to stop an intruder, but to erase them. The cold calculation behind it was unmistakable. Lucien didn't just want Elon humiliated. He wanted him gone, buried, forgotten under the bones of ancient gladiators. Elon dropped to his knees, air scraping painfully through his throat as the space narrowed around him. His mind went into overdrive. Think, think, think. His phone. He ripped it from his pocket, eyes scanning for anything that could interfere with the ancient mechanisms. The flashlight flickered wildly as he jabbed into his engineering app, the one he had designed personally, a backdoor into every Tesla, every Neuralink processor. He flicked it into emergency override mode and pointed the infrared beam directly at the stone seam. For one agonizing second, nothing happened. The walls pressed closer. The breath was nearly squeezed from his lungs. Then, a faint click. The grinding stopped. A tiny gap, just wide enough to push through, remained frozen in the collapsing tunnel. Without wasting a second, Elon flattened himself against the stone and wriggled forward, scraping his shoulders and arms raw against the jagged walls. Every inch felt like a lifetime. But finally, with a savage heave, he tumbled out the other side, gasping, bruised, and alive. He rolled onto his back, staring up at the crumbling ceiling, feeling every bruise and scrape burning against his skin. Lucien had tried to trap him like an insect under glass, but he wasn't finished, not even close. Somewhere beyond that trap lay the truth about Argos. Somewhere ahead, Lucien Vale was smiling, thinking Elon Musk was out of the game. Elon sat up, wiping blood from his scraped palm across his jeans. He wasn't playing by Lucien's rules anymore. From here on out, it was war. And the first strike, breaking into the hidden room behind the door, marked Argos. But this time, he would do it on his terms. Oh, not Lucien's. Because if there was one thing Elon Musk knew better than anyone, it was how to break into forbidden territory, and how to make the whole world watch when he did. Elon stood up slowly, every muscle in his body humming with adrenaline. The door marked Argos loomed ahead, silent, waiting. But now he knew better. He wasn't just dealing with ancient traps and cheap tech tricks. Lucien Vale had fused cutting-edge security with the deadliest instincts of an empire built on blood and betrayal. And if Elon wanted to survive, if he wanted the truth, he had to be smarter. He pressed his palms flat against the stone around the door, feeling for vibrations, for heat, for the slightest unnatural edge. There. A thin, almost imperceptible line along the bottom of the threshold. A modern tripwire, cleverly masked to look like a crack in ancient stone. Step on it, and the entire tunnel might collapse. He crouched low, heart pounding, and gingerly slid a broken piece of marble across the floor as it crossed the line. A barely audible click sounded, then nothing. He had disarmed it, just like that. A small, sharp grin flickered across Elon's face. Lucien thought he was predictable, that he would panic, that he would rush. But panic had never built rockets or revolutionized industries. Panic, you didn't win wars. Steeling himself, Elon reached out once more and pressed his palm flat against the scanner. A soft hiss echoed through the tunnel. And slowly, majestically, the door slid open. Inside was a room that shouldn't exist. Banks of futuristic servers hummed in tight rows, their lights blinking like watchful eyes. Cables snaked across the floor, connecting to a massive central device. A sleek black obelisk covered in thousands of tiny antennas, each no bigger than a grain of rice. The core of Project Argos. Elon stepped forward, the stale metallic air crackling with invisible energy. He could feel the weight of it, the raw potential vibrating through the stone walls. At his feet lay open blueprints, notes, and diagrams, scribbled in Lucien's distinctive, meticulous handwriting. And the more Elon read, the colder he felt. Argos wasn't just a communications disruptor. It was a total information weapon. A system designed to hijack every satellite, every network, every private database on Earth. If Lucien launched it, he wouldn't just control information. He would control truth itself. Reality, rewritten by whoever owned the signal. And right now, the only thing standing between Lucien and that terrifying future was Elon Musk. Suddenly a slow clap echoed through the room, cold and mocking. Elon whirled around, and there, leaning casually in the shadows, was the man himself. Lucien Vale. Dressed in black, a smirk twisting his perfect viper-smooth face, Lucien looked like a king surveying a fallen knight. "Well done, Elon," he drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. "I knew you were stubborn. I didn't know you were suicidal." The two men locked eyes across the room. Innovators, rivals, enemies. Both standing at the crossroads of history, both knowing only one of them could leave the Colosseum victorious. Elon's pulse thundered in his ears. He wasn't trapped anymore. He wasn't running. This was the moment he had come for, and he wasn't about to lose. Not here, not now, not when the fate of truth itself hung in the balance. The two men stared at each other, the silence thick enough to crack. Behind Elon, the hum of the Argos machine pulsed like a heartbeat, reminding him with every blink that time was running out. Lucien's smirk widened, but his eyes, sharp, calculating, never left Elon's face. "You don't get it, do you?" Lucien said, voice low and slicing. "This isn't about power. It's about evolution. Argos will end the era of chaos. I'll make the truth simple, clean, unquestioned." Elon took a slow, deliberate step forward, the ancient dust swirling around his boots. "And what happens to freedom?" he said, his voice steady, cutting through the thick, charged air. "Or are you so scared of losing control that you'd kill it first?" Lucien's laugh was hollow, humorless. "Freedom is an illusion, Elon. Always has been. I'm just the first one honest enough to admit it." The tension in the room snapped tighter, the two titans circling each other like gladiators, standing where real blood had once soaked the ground. Lucien reached into his jacket, fast, and pulled out a slim, black remote. One button, a kill switch, one press, and Argos would activate. Every satellite, every network, every voice Elon had spent a lifetime amplifying, silenced. "You're not stopping this," Lucien said, raising the remote like a scepter. "You're just going to watch it happen." And for a flicker of a second, a human second, Elon felt a surge of doubt. He was bruised, outmatched, trapped under the ruins of a civilization that had once worshipped brute force over reason. But then he remembered who he was. Not because of the billions, not because of the headlines, because of every moment he'd stood when others told him to sit down, because he knew that real innovation was about more than winning. It was about giving the future a fighting chance. He moved, fast. Before Lucien's thumb could hit the button, Elon hurled a broken shard of marble across the room, a relic of Rome's deadliest games, slamming it into Lucien's wrist. The remote skittered across the floor, clattering into the shadows. Lucien shouted in rage, lunging after it, but Elon was already there, slamming him into the stone wall with the strength of desperation and purpose. The room exploded into chaos. Fists flying, bones slamming against ancient stone, the brutal, graceless fight of men with everything to lose. Lucien fought dirty, gouging, clawing, but Elon fought with something harder to kill: conviction. At the last second, as Lucien lunged for the fallen remote, Elon drove his knee into his side, sending him sprawling backward. Without hesitation, Elon grabbed the device, and without even glancing at the buttons, snapped it cleanly in half. The pieces clattered to the ground, useless. The hum of Argos wavered, then died. Total silence. Lucien lay gasping on the floor, fury and disbelief etched into every line of his face. "You'll regret this," he spat, venom thick in his voice. "You could have ruled it all." Elon stood over him, chest heaving, blood staining his knuckles, silhouetted against the flickering lights of the dying machine. "I don't want to rule it," he said simply. "I want people to choose their own future." Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. The authorities, finally alerted by emergency fail-safes, kicking in across the network. It was over. Elon turned away without another word, stepping back into the tunnels of the Colosseum, battered but unbroken. The walls, once symbols of blood and oppression, now seemed to lean back, not as enemies, but as silent witnesses to a different kind of victory. Outside, the first stars of the Roman night glittered above the ancient arena, watching as one man walked free. Not because he was the strongest, but because he believed in something stronger than fear. Truth, freedom, hope, and somewhere deep inside, even the Colosseum, old as time, heavy with history, seemed to breathe a little easier. In a place built for conquest, Elon Musk proved that real power isn't about winning. It's about refusing to surrender. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to leave a like. It helps us bring you even more unforgettable journeys. Hit subscribe to make sure you don't miss what's coming next. And I'd love to know, if you were in Elon Musk's place, what would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm reading all of them. Thanks for being part of this adventure. See you in the next one.